As we mentioned earlier in the week, OOIDA holds board meetings twice a year, bringing in board members from all over the country and Canada, of course. We already spoke with 4 of the board members who are in town about the state of the industry and a few of the issues of note, and it went so well, we thought we'd do it again. Only this time, we've got a new set of board members ready to roll. Monte Wiederhold, Danny Schnautz, and Mark Elrod. Welcome to Trucking with OOIDA.
Great to be here.
Yep. We're happy to have you guys here. Starting off, can we just kind of go around the table? Just tell us how long you've been on the board and what it is that keeps you busy.
Oh, boy.
So I've been on the board since 2014. I've been in trucking over 45 years. I've been a member of OOIDA 45 years. I've had my CDL, which back when I got mine, it was called a chauffeur's license in 1973. So I've had that for 51 years now.
Are you one of the few that has a low member number?
I do. I have a 4-digit member number.
4-digit.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Yeah.
There aren't too many of those left, right?
Yeah, my dad and I joined like in 1980 or something, I think.
Mark, you just raised your hand. You have a 4-digit also? Yeah? Danny?
6.
Okay. Well, it's nice talking to you, Danny. We'll see you later.
I'm the kid, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Youngster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Danny,
Yes.
Tell us about yourself a little bit.
I started in trucks whenever I was 2 days old, riding with my dad, and started driving when I was in high school in the Texas oil field, and drove trucks for quite a while. Been in the office at the same company for a few decades. We're running about 180 trucks down there in Texas. I've been on the board, I'd have to look it up, but I think around 8 years. But I've been involved with OOIDA much longer, doing some advocacy in Washington, just going out there with them on my own before I was on the board and engaging that way.
Yeah. Mark?
Well, I started, I don't know when I joined the board. It's been a while.
It's been long enough, yeah.
Yeah. I always ask my wife all these details, and she keeps track.
She's the bookkeeper.
I'm just along for the ride, you know.
Yep.
Should have brought her in.
My dad was an insurance man and stuff, never was that much into mechanical stuff, but I always loved it. And this machine shop down the road had this Cab Over International for sale, so I really started out as an owner-operator almost, which was not the smartest thing to do. I know when first time I drove a big truck, my buddy hauled hogs out of Cleveland, or to Cleveland. And so I rode with him, you know, oh, this is cool, you know, and he said, pay attention, I'm going to let you drive, you know. I said, oh, okay, you know. I assumed that he would ride with me and tell me, well, we get over there, there's another one of their drivers, and he's, okay, follow us, and he takes off. I didn't know how to get it in gear. I didn't know how long I was, you know.
Mark, are you sure this wasn't a trafficking situation? Did you track a trailer? What were you hauling?
Well,
you sure it was
I was empty. They had emptied the hogs out. I was empty, but they took off, and I'm just trying to catch up with them. And then they get 4 ahead, so I have to get out in the passing lane, and I'm trying to figure out how long I am so I can get in and out, and you know, and then I see them dive off, and I thought, and I'm out in this lane, and so I have to get over and not kill nobody. And luckily, no incidents.
No incidents. Okay,
so that was one of my first inspections. Well, another thing was this truck I bought. Okay, I wanted to see the motor, you know. So it's a cab over. You jack the cab up. So I jacked it up, looked at it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And went to let it down, wouldn't come down. Went part way, wouldn't go down. Dang, gone it, you know. So I take one of those cylinders off, mess with it. I couldn't figure out anything wrong. So I decided to throw a come-along across it, and I'm going to take the other one out. Well, the problem is it didn't go back. It went forward.
Oh, no.
And there was an old Dodge Power Wagon there that had the external headlights, and that headlight hit right between the 2 windshields and knocked both of them out before I even got it on the road. So I think I had to borrow money from my dad for $200 and some to put new windshields in the truck before I even put it on the road.
And that was like day 2 of you.
Of my trucking career. I should have figured out something then. And this old thing, it had a Detroit, and it had it was a Henderson with rubber pads. And so I called it an air ride because every bump you hit, you were in the air. You know? So
those were the good old days.
Yeah.
Does any of that resonate with either of you guys? You didn't have quite the same experience, I'm going to guess.
Yeah. So the first truck that I got started driving an old Mack for a buddy of mine, hauling livestock locally. But I had some experience. My dad had taught me how to drive at this construction company. He would haul a piece of equipment out to a job site, and then on the way back, he'd say, all right, get over here and show me what you got. So I'd drive along till I made a mistake, and my dad, the type of teaching my dad done, it wasn't like this, well, you know, son, you kind of made a mistake. It was like, all right, get it over here to the side of the road, get over the other seat. What did I do wrong? Just step back and watch for a while, you know. But we had when we got in a truck, in our own truck, we had a similar situation with the cab over truck that Mark had. One of the things we learned right away when you had the cab up was to not have the doors open on the truck, because several headaches later.
Yeah,
because you'd come out under the cab, bam, right, you know. Oh, yeah. And who left that door open? And, you know.
Those are the lessons you got to learn by yourself, though.
Yeah,
right?
You can't learn them any other way.
Yeah.
But
They just don't stick if you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, and well, the other thing you learned on cab over trucks was to take thermos bottles out of the sleeper.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you jack it up, yeah, we replaced one windshield because of that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Again, those are the lessons you learn the hard way.
Yeah.
You don't make that same mistake twice, though.
Nope, you do not.
Yeah, there was a guy down in Indianapolis. He had his cab up, was changing oil, doing something, and decided he's going to start it. Well, he didn't make sure it was out of gear. So it took off and took the porch off his house, you know.
Oh, my God.
Bad day, boss.
Yeah, I'll say.
Man.
Danny, have you had
Oh yeah, one that comes to mind is whenever you're a high school kid driving in a Texas oil field, you know, you may not get the primo stuff, and the clutch went out on a truck I was driving, and it would not disengage, so it was always in gear. Well, it happens when I'm running empty down the road back up to Houston. So I just went along about almost 200 miles without touching the clutch, right? And it's pretty rough whenever you get to stop and go traffic. You get to the gate of the place that you're going to go park in, you know, you got to figure that stuff out. So these are valuable learning experiences. The same truck I drove one night into LaGrange, Texas with a flashlight up on the dash. Because the lights slowly got more dim, and I thought I was getting tired or something. Yeah, what is happening here? And I'm like, oh, it's discharging. I had this nice big aluminum flashlight. Put it in I couldn't stop where I was, you know, on the road. You know? So anyway, I went into town, and it was a diesel. It ran forever without any power. It didn't.
Well, that's the way when the clutch goes out, you have to shut the truck off.
That's what I did. That's what I did.
Then you had to start it in gear.
Yep.
And you know, hope you don't lose your batteries or your starter before you make it home.
That's what I did. Yep.
You remember, Ashley, we were talking to Todd Spencer, president here at the association, like one of our very first shows, and we were talking to him about his first truck.
Yeah.
And I think we had asked him, maybe you asked him or I asked him about, you know, the differences between then and now. And obviously the trucks now are so much nicer. I don't even think you can compare them in a lot of ways in terms of comfort and things like that. You don't get as many cool stories like this, though, with them,
No.
right?
Right.
Do you guys like, I assume you enjoy the comforts of the modern semi compared to what you guys kind of grew up with and what you're talking about here?
Yeah, I think creature comfort wise, obviously.
Yeah.
And I mean, my truck isn't really new. I mean, I've got a 99 Pete.
Yeah.
I've got it for a number of reasons. Reliability being number one, because, you know, we talk about the newer trucks having equipment sensor problems or whatever. And I know Danny can relate a lot more than I can. But like we were talking about the clutch going out on a newer truck, the transmission has to be in neutral. It won't start. So you're not going to drive one home, you know, because it's not, you turn the key, it's not going to start because it's got the kill switch. It won't let it.
Yeah.
Won't let
You
it
can't
go.
make some of those same mistakes.
Yeah. But I mean, otherwise, my goodness, I can remember my dad and I first started the 73 cab over GMC we had Rayco 4-spring suspension, which as far as spring suspensions went back then was pretty good.
Pretty good,
but
yeah.
it's still,
compared to now?
Yeah, it could still, like, you're back there in the bunk sleeping and Dad's driving. I was lifted off the mattress several times with,
Yeah.
So contrast that with, we made a trip several years later down the road. I had a 2000 Western Star, and it was a hot rush load to Florida. And I mean, like, night and day difference as far as sleeping compared to what it was in that old truck.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
And also at the end of a long day, you're glad that you're in something that's a little more quiet, a little more smooth riding. You know, you can hear the radio. Back in the old days, you couldn't even hear the AM FM radio.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not when going down the road, you had a 238 Jimmy screaming right there by you. You know, I mean, that was when you went through a little town and slowed down, then you could hear the radio.
Sure, yeah. You're like, oh, that's what I'm listening to.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I'm on the wrong station.
Yeah.
How many miles do you have on that 99?
It's got about 2 million on it.
Yeah.
And, the type of operation we have, we don't run a whole lot of miles. I mean, I think like in 2023, I think I ran like 45,000 miles, and my revenue was over $200 and some $1,000.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the adage of, you try to haul better paying loads, work smarter, not necessarily harder. Some guys think you got to run 3,000-4,000 miles a week to make a living. I'm not saying you can't.
Sure.
But it's not something that I want to do anymore. I mean, because you're just so much more in upkeep on the equipment, tires, just the whole 9 yards.
Away from home.
Away from home. Yep. Yep.
Well, that's also a luxury with you guys being established and being in the profession for so long now. You do have a little bit more leeway in terms of that kind of thing, right? Younger folks coming up don't necessarily have that. And you have, paid your dues, obviously, over the years and have gone through all that. But that's a nice thing to be able to do now, right, after being around for so long. Yeah,
when you're first getting in, you don't have the options.
Yeah.
Right? I give advice to a lot of people, including this trip already. A guy's called me up and said, how does my son get into trucking, right? So the conversation starts with a reality check and then OOIDA. Mm-hmm. And then we start getting into details. What kind of a driving job do you want? What kind of lifestyle do you want? But what I know is this new entrant has very few options. Yeah. And they're going to have to pick one or two or three. And then they'll be able to, with experience, be able to work up into something that's maybe more to their liking. And being home is something most people want these days. And a lot of times as a new entrant, you're just not going to get that and not make a decent check.
So you're saying don't go the Mark Elrod route and start out as an owner-operator and go through all those hard knocks?
I tell people you definitely need to make your mistakes on somebody else's dime.
Yeah, for sure.
And I tell my drivers, you're probably going to tear something up if you're new.
Yeah.
Make it something little and easy to fix. Don't tear a fender off. Tear off a mud flap or something.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of get your confidence back in check, and it is difficult to operate a truck and a trailer in all the different terrain, all of the different facilities, and keep your wits about you. You're in somebody's way. You're in a hurry. It's pouring down rain. That's a lot of demand. That's not made for everybody.
Yeah. And things are in some ways, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. And we were talking this morning with the other folks about this, but in some ways it's harder nowadays, I think, than it was back then. For a number of reasons. I think, for one, the way in which truckers are treated, and we talk about this all the time at shippers and receivers and truck parking. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Do you think that's a safe thing to say, or do you agree or disagree with that? Or are things a little harder now maybe for folks out there?
I think, in my own personal opinion, I think that it is harder. And I think that, I mean, all those things you listed are things, that we have to contend with. But the biggest thing missing today, that what it was when I started, was the camaraderie among truckers. Because everybody is, I can hold myself, everybody's wrapped up in these cell phones. We were talking about it that, used to be, drivers parked at the truck stop, they went inside, they sat in the TV room or whatever, or they went into the restaurant, they sat around the counter, and you strike up a conversation with anybody. I mean, back then when, truck stops were open 24 hours a day. If you want to go into the 76 truck stop there at Whitestown, Indiana, get a cup of coffee, there might be a line haul driver there, and you sit there and talk shop with him. Every now and then there'd be somebody maybe driving a car that's traveling there, but that personal connection because, nowadays, somebody new, it's really hard to probably approach somebody. And I'm not going to say everybody's going to do it, but a lot of people are going to this newbie, what do you know? What are you doing?
Yeah.
So without trying to give this guy this mentoring type of a thing or helping hand or whatever, And none of us here were born with a steering wheel in our hand, you know. So we all started someplace. And I was fortunate to have my father that taught me a lot. Now he didn't teach me everything. He said, when I stop teaching you, when you stop riding with me, you don't stop learning. You keep learning every day. And he said, if you do that, and he said, if you keep your eyes open, you will learn something every day. But I think that part is really missing, the personal interaction between drivers.
Another thing that contributed to that was CB radio.
Mm-hmm.
Because we talked to each other going down the road just as much as we would at the truck stop, and the communications and the advice. And if you've seen somebody with trouble, you'd pull over. Well, today you're a little leery of pulling over. You don't know what's going to, if you pull over to help somebody and somebody runs into you, you're in deep doo-doo, you know? So it's a whole different mentality of things, and it's hard and the young people, it's just being home and it's hard to get a job starting out where you're home and to take the shock of just going out and going all the different. And I don't know, sounds like you did a lot of the local stuff too. Regional, I never got in the mountains, nothing to speak of. I call myself a flatlander. I get in the mountains and I'm dangerous, because I really, nobody's ever trained me. I don't know completely what to do. I went once and got some logs out in West Virginia, and I'm coming back. My buddy's following me. He said, your trailer brakes are smoking, Okay.
Thanks for the heads up.
What do I do? What do I do now?
Do I jump or what?
At what point do I bail?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm curious, you had mentioned that somebody had called and asked about, getting into trucking. What do you guys feel like it takes? Not just obviously like schooling and whatnot, but like, what does it take? You guys obviously are successful. You've been in it many years. What do you feel like somebody's got to have to?
A little bit of mechanical initiative, I think, would help you immensely. And
is that still true today, though, you think?
Huh?
Is that still true today with?
To a point. Just the logic of mechanical.
Sure.
It's all different now because it's got a lot of electronics. A little sensor can put you out of a deal, But even then, there's different things that just knowing when there's something going bad that maybe you can prevent a catastrophe or something helps a little bit. But and then also, I don't know, the communication with other people. You're going to have to communicate whether you like it or not, and how you handle pressure and handle stress and this, if you can handle it with calmness or whatever compared to freaking out because you're going to have some of it.
And you're going to have
people that's really nasty with you, and you're going to have to take some of it.
Grin and bear it a little bit.
Yeah, but a lot of it, it's just like people with DOT. I've watched them, they'll get stopped and they're instantly in that cop's face, and that's never good.
That's never good.
The old deal, honey will get you more than, vinegar.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's treating people with respect would be nice, in all the situations.
Mark hit some good points. I'll also say self-reliance.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of office jobs, a lot of different kind of jobs, somebody's right beside you.
Yeah.
And if you have a little crisis, whatever kind, somebody picks up that ball. But if you have a load on you, it's you or nobody.
Yeah.
Right? There's nobody right beside you to take over. And so if you're not feeling great, if you're confused, you got to pull yourself together in some way and communicate.
Yeah.
And figure things out, which may be mechanical. It may be, I have no idea how I'm going to back in this place, whatever it is. It's you or nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be able to do that. And a lot of jobs are not like that.
And you got to have that can-do attitude.
Yeah.
You know, if you got I can't do this all the time, boy, you're in deep doo-doo right off the bat. So.
I'm not sure you can say doo-doo on the air.
Oh, okay.
We'll bleep it. Don't worry. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Watch your language, Mark. All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty extreme.
It's a family show, okay?
I was going to say that trucking is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
I mean, and my dad, you know, he told me that trucking was the greatest education he'd ever got. And here was a guy, he'd been in the Army, you know, he'd been a supervisor or a foreman on a construction company. He drove a ready-mix truck. He was an aircraft mechanic in the Army. But he said, you know, you're dealing with shippers, receivers, the motoring public, people at the truck stops, cashiers that maybe they're new, they don't know how to run your fuel card. I mean, of course, a lot of it's at the pump now, but I mean, back when we, you know, but I mean, you deal with law enforcement, you know, and like Mark was talking about, you know, and I mean, one of the things that one of the lessons he told me is, you know, I mean, obviously I was raised to treat people how you would like to be treated, you know, from the get-go. Yes, ma'am, no, sir, that type of stuff, whatever. These days I've made women mad by saying yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I am not an old lady. How
Yeah.
dare you call me yes, ma'am? You know,
No
I'm
disrespect.
Like, I'm like, hey, I'm just,
Right.
you know,
That's right.
so
I'm trying to be polite. Yeah.
and my wife was like, well, you just say yes or no. You know?
Yeah.
But that's
Okay.
rude. That's rude.
Yeah, really, yeah. But I mean, it really is, honestly, because I mean, you deal with, and I think most law enforcement officers are genuine good guys. They're out there. We would be lost without them. Obviously, there's going to be the Barney Fifes of the world that, you know, that, hey, I'm the source of revenue for this town. You know, you were doing 36 and a 30 or whatever or something, you know, and so, but I mean, you really have to master a lot of things. My advice to somebody that's wanting to start out, and I mean, obviously, if you have your sight on being an owner operator, go out there and go to work for somebody. Couple years of good experience, maybe even more, you know, and that part, I mean, way back then, like when we started, there was like insurance companies now look at you, you know, if you've been driving 20 years, but you become an owner operator, they're going to look at you like you're new in the industry. They're going to want, like, if the normal going rate for a truck for insurance is 10 grand, they're going to want 20. Mm-hmm. So it's a tough thing. And so you got to make sure you got a good deal lined up. But, if you get your experience, keep your nose clean. You know, I always say, no tickets, all that type of stuff. You could just about go anywhere. I'm not saying you'd want to jump in on a truck, but I mean, for people today that like these lease purchase deals, where somebody that they don't have they're new in trucking. They're new to trucking,
Yep.
period. And owning a truck, no, there's
But
no way.
they don't know better.
They don't
And they're
know.
being taken advantage of.
They don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember way back when, like, I can't remember who, I won't name them, but they had an ad like 50 cents a mile for driver's wages, but you can be an owner operator for 95 cents a mile.
Sure. Oh, which one are you going to take?
Yeah.
Which option sounds
Wow,
better?
I can
Yeah.
make almost twice as much money.
Yeah.
You know, so there's that. But I mean, there's still a lot of good people in the world, but there's people that will skin you 40 ways to Sunday
That's right.
in
Yeah,
trucking
for
and,
sure.
and not lose a bit of sleep over it.
Well, that's the thing too. Is you know, again, you know, you guys are experienced. You've seen a lot over the years, and it can be easy. I can just imagine a younger person maybe listening to this and thinking, "Oh, you know, these guys, times have changed. You know, things are different now. You know, they don't understand or see the whole picture, maybe, or something like that." I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, but my point is, and I do have a point in there somewhere, but when you look at the industry right now, do you feel, you know, all these things that you're talking about, the great things about the industry are still there, but there are so many other things now weighing it down that weren't there maybe, you know, 30, 40 years ago, however long you want to go back. Does that concern you about the future of where we're heading now? Or do you feel some optimism about kind of, you know, the future and what we're looking at? It's a tough question maybe to answer.
It's really concerning to me because the advancements are a lot of times in comfort. The advances are in things that are not really the foundation of the industry. So moving the load is more difficult than ever. It's hard to get a road repair. Traffic is worse than ever. Road rage used to be something you didn't encounter very often.
Now you encounter it a lot.
Now you expect it. You expect it.
It used to be hand signals. Now it can be a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you prefer the finger in that
That's
situation.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good point. So there's so many things that really matter. You can't get to the shipper or receiver on time if you're sitting in gridlock, and they're more strict than ever on when you get there.
Yeah.
So those are the foundational things. So whether or not your truck has cup holders or a good AC is really minor compared to actually moving the load and making the money and having to go really high level. Our nation needs a very reliable, efficient supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
And I see us losing that with losing expertise, with everybody looking after their own self-interest, where a tire shop or a truck stop will not mount your tire. They only want to sell you a new one. Things like that's detrimental to your success, to your profit, to the timeliness. So I think that we need to reverse some of those really big picture things, which is what we fight at OOIDA every day to try to do to make a difference.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say too is that me and my father, we never had new equipment. We always had used equipment. Like I said, my dad was a mechanic. He knew how to overhaul engines, brake jobs, all this kind of stuff. And we were, like Mark said, we primarily ran around the Midwest. We didn't do like a lot of East Coast, West Coast, whatever. I mean, we went to the East Coast as time progressed or whatever, but it wasn't something we looked to do. We were always looking at making the best buck, for the amount of miles, whatever, the amount of miles. But when you look at the used equipment today, or the equipment that will be used equipment 5 years from now, and the sensor failures and all this type of stuff,
You don't want it.
that is really that to me is a big concern. I know one of our other members, one of our other board directors, has talked about that. I've had conversations with him about it. That because and I think about it today. Like I said, the truck that I have is a 99 Pete. I mean, it's got a cat. Now it's not getting 8 miles a gallon or 9, whatever. Mm-hmm. But the 5.5 to 6, and of course we're hauling pretty heavy loads of steel, permit loads, whatever. So obviously that's got a bearing on it. But it is so reliable. Change oil, keep the antifreeze in it, brakes on it.
Something to be said for simplicity.
Yes,
a lot
absolutely, a lot.
A lot,
Yeah.
And that's a big concern to me. Is as much as things have advanced, like driver comfort wise, it's also, in my opinion, kind of regressed in the reliability of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're not fighting for cup holders here at OOIDA.
No.
Yeah.
We're not. We're trying to get people to make a good living, to contribute to society, respect each other, and be able to work together.
And we're speaking with Monte Wiederhold, Danny Schnautz, and Mark Elrod. Danny, to that point, and I think that's a great place to kind of pivot here, because we're talking about problems, and there are plenty of problems out there. You talk about the association's role in finding solutions to some of these problems. That's one thing that you're doing here this week, is you're having conversations. You're trying to figure out the direction that the association will take on this issue or that issue. I just want to go around the table here, if we could, and there are a lot of issues, I think that's safe to say, but is there one in particular that you've got in mind that, you really want to talk about this week, you really want to address this week? I guess what is kind of gnawing at you as you kind of enter these discussions right now? We can maybe start with you, Mark.
Well, you asked what the future holds for trucking, and with the way the situations are happening. And sorry to say, it's driverless trucks that is a big scary part.
That's on my list here.
Yeah. And that's really scary, but that's what's down the road if we don't watch it, whatever. So, of course, parking's an issue, and just over-regulation, period, is makes it hard to function in the industry and stuff. So, OOIDA has been on the forefront with trying to make the regulation more fair or whatever, not do away with safety. That's not the object whatsoever. So many of some of the groups, they think, if you're not for this or that, some of the stuff is just I can't say that word.
Doo-doo. That's the word you're looking for.
It's just bad.
Bull doo-doo. Bull doo-doo. That's what it
Doo-doo,
was.
yeah. It's just bad. It's not going to do what they think it's going to do as far as safety. And many things have caused that. Just like this, ELDs have not really made the road safer, in my opinion. And I didn't even ever like logbooks. You know, I didn't think it was anybody's business. You know, really, as long as I was operating safely. You know, all I seen it was a thing that the lawyers could use. You know, and hey, let them earn their money like everybody else. They don't need me to give them all the facts. You know that.
Now you don't have to worry about the lawyers. Now it's Big Brother you got to worry about.
Yeah, exactly.
With everything.
You know.
Yeah.
And I've always did that, and I try to keep a low profile and not say a whole lot, and avoid conflicts with the regulations if I can. You know, it's just the paper regulations. That's why getting into trucking, the truck is the easy part. It's all the other stuff that drives you nuts.
That day-to-day stuff, yeah.
And I did want to say something about the cop deal, like he said. And my greatest fear, I used to have red hair, and my greatest fear was I'd get stopped by a cop that his wife just ran off with a red-headed trucker.
And how many times did that happen?
Luckily, none.
None. Okay,
you know,
good. All right.
That's why I'm still here.
I was going to say, that's why you're sitting here today. That's good. Yeah. Well, that's not the number one concern that OOIDA has, I imagine, this week. It's probably not coming up in conversations.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned autonomous, and I'll let you guys can go any direction you want, but what issue is at the top of your mind, I guess, when you're, meeting with people this week?
Well, it's the EPA regs, because that can put you out of business. These trucks are so unreliable, it's unbelievable. And then you have to send a wrecker form. Your driver's stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Engine won't even run. No AC, no heater, right? And then you send a wrecker and you send a replacement truck and the load's late. And it's all because the EPA pushed these engine manufacturers to make an engine that was not technologically possible.
Wasn't ready for prime time.
Wasn't not ready.
Yeah.
And thank God for the Trump administration that's rolling back some of those regs. But the engine makers have already got ready for the next round. We were afraid they're going to put those engines out. We're not buying them. We buy new trucks. We buy them often. We are not buying that next round of truck until they run through the sifter for a while, right? But that hurts that driver. I can't make enough money on anything else to pay for all of the downtime. We try, but the money has to come from somewhere. The rates are low. So that's and then right to repair goes hand in hand with that, right? We're stuck at the dealer for a week or 2 weeks, hoping that they will get to your truck to tell you all we found was a sensor, and we don't really know if they got it fixed or not. Now, you look back at the mechanical engine, they would say, this failed, we found the little shreds of metal in it, we found that, this was also broke, replace those two things, it's fixed. And you had high confidence in that, right? That's gone out the window, and it's something I think the public would never put up with in their own personal cars, right?
Yeah.
Although they're having the same problem. If you talk to mechanics that deal with these new cars, they're having the same problems. So.
It's got to be fixed.
Yeah.
We can't move the nation's goods efficiently and reliably if the trucks won't even run.
Does it feel like the toothpaste is already out of the tube, though, a little bit on some of this? Because, you talk about the electronics and right to repair and the EPA. We've seen some rollbacks of the EPA, but from hearing you talk, the rollbacks haven't solved the problem, right? Because we are where we are.
Right. Well, yes, the toothpaste is out of the tube.
Yeah.
What we need is for the engine manufacturer's ability to produce a reliable engine to catch up to the regs.
Sure.
So if they push off those regs another 10 years, and if the engine manufacturers will keep working to make those reliable, and all we need is what to me is little things, but they're difficult to make, better sensors and those kind of things. Airplanes operate in much more complex environments, and they do it reliably. Trucks can't cost as much as airplanes. So somewhere in there, there's the balance of money and reliability. We have to move closer to reliability. And then I think we'll be ready maybe in 10 or 15 years to go to the next round. But it's not tomorrow.
Yeah. What about you, Monte?
Well, I think that, I know that everybody, all of us here around the table, the guy in the control room, we're all for a clean air, clean environment. But you can't bankrupt the people that are bringing the food, bringing the goods.
Well said.
You can't do that and still expect that to continue, because sooner or later, the guys that are doing it, they're like, I can't make any money. I can't, and I mean, we talk about, like, and I'm not talking about somebody being greedy. I'm just talking about somebody you got to have a profit. If you don't have a profit, you're not going to operate.
Yeah.
If you don't have a profit, you can't invest and do trailers or whatever the case may be, or the trucks. But I think, and I'm hopeful, I don't know. I mean, we've seen a lot of people were sent to jail. Companies were fined millions of dollars for deleting the stuff. But yet the EPA admitted when these trucks were deleted, they got better fuel mileage. They ran better. Okay, if you're using less fuel, is that not less pollution? Mm-hmm. I'm not a scientist, but I think I got that figured out.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things, like Danny said. Obviously, like I said, I'm happy with the truck that I have. I couldn't go to California with it. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. And that's because of the regulations, not because it wouldn't make it.
Right. Let's
be clear about that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, when, like, if you, I bought this truck used. It had an APU on it. It didn't run. And I went and checked out what it was going to take. But, for what I do, for the limited amount of miles I run, I mean, 50,000 miles a year. I mean, if I was somebody that was out, maybe for weeks, months at a time or whatever, an APU might make sense to me. But otherwise, it was just a 400-pound, dead weight anchor that I couldn't haul.
Yeah.
But so that part there, the EPA stuff. One of the other things that's a big worry is the litigation.
Nuclear verdicts.
Nuclear verdicts. I mean, just like some of the stuff that we've talked about within ourselves, of just one of our guys. He was had went to a thing. He was at home, but he had a hitch on the back of his pickup truck. A lady come in and parked behind him, ran her Cadillac into the hitch on his truck, and said, "Hey, I need your insurance company because your hitch tore up the front of my car." When she drove the car into the hitch.
Yeah.
And so she expected, but this is the kind of nonsensical stuff that we get. I mean, we read about it and hear about it every day. But one of the, like I said, that's one of the tort reform. And I mean, we could use that across not just trucking, but I mean, you think about all this kind of stuff, these medical malpractice lawsuits. And I'm not saying that doctors don't mess up sometimes. Mm-hmm. It happens. They're humans or whatever. But that stuff affects all of us, and it drives up the cost of everything.
And like you said, they're humans, but we all get held, especially truckers, because we're in that field, to this very high standard of impossibility. You can't stop on a shoulder and put your flashers on and walk over and get a hamburger without fear of somebody going to run off the road, hit you, and it's your fault.
Yeah.
And you did everything right. Or you didn't get your reflectors out quick enough. They're timing you now. Hey, well, the camera said that you were stopped for this many minutes. No, you were in there trying to get the truck started. You were just talking on the phone. It's a lot of work to get your reflectors out.
Yeah.
And so back to the tort reform, there
was an incident in California several years ago. A guy was driving a day cab truck. He was pulling a container, I believe, and I don't know if it was L.A. or wherever, but he had been someplace where, and this is one of the things we push for, restroom access. The guy was there several hours getting loaded or unloaded, and he asked him, no, you can't use the restroom. So when he got out on the highway, he pulled over to the shoulder, had his flashers on.
Nature called.
Yep.
Yep.
And some woman runs into him, and the cops were like, "Hey, why was you stopped here anyway?" I mean, this is how ridiculously insane and unfeeling that we've gotten towards people. And I'm not saying it's just for truckers, but I mean, we face this every day. Like, we're treated as less than the average. I mean, and I mean, could you see if somebody worked in an office? No, you can't use the restroom on this floor. You got to go down to the next floor.
Right.
Well, that was not working. Sorry. I mean, that kind of nonsensical stuff. But I mean, one of the things that I've been a member of OOIDA for so long is we have always advocated for rules that make sense, rules that increase safety, not just a rule to have a rule, just like with speed limiters that we just recently were successful with. if we get the highway bill passed and it's part of that'll be gone. We fought that for years, But that's the one thing that's always attracted me to be a member of OOIDA was common sense stuff. Jim Johnston, that was his deal. Todd Spencer, Louis Pugh. That's what these guys are advocating for. That's what we go up to Congress and talk to all these lawmakers about. That's why we have this staff on Capitol Hill that's full time up there, knocking on doors. Hey, we think our members, we think truckers ought to have rights or the rights to use a restroom, access to a restroom. And, one of the things that always kind of got me is that whether you're a member or not, when we advocate and win for the industry, we win for everybody. We don't go, oh, hey, wait, no, that's only for OOIDA members.
Right, yeah.
We were the ones who fought and won that, so you can't.
Well, and imagine if OOIDA wasn't around, you'd have who would be the voice out there? It'd be the voice that we all hear talking about the driver shortage, and I'm putting air quotes up.
Yeah.
That would be the dominant voice, and that would be the only voice you hear.
Yeah.
And again, the association, as you point out, is trying to help every single individual truck driver out there. And I imagine you feel that weight when you're here, meeting with everybody because you're making decisions that, are going to guide the way the association deals with some of this stuff.
Right. We take our past experience, but also our current conversations we have, and certainly not with each other. It's with everybody else in the industry we talk to. It's things we observe every day, what we have to overcome, what the opportunities we see totally missed because of a regulation, because of something that is able to be fixed. And a lot of this moves very slowly, but you got to start somewhere.
That's one of the key words, that many truckers are very impatient and can't understand why OOIDA just can't snap their fingers and get something done. The government works very slow, and you form a relationship with certain government officials, and then all of a sudden, they're gone. So then you have to start all over. And it's a very slow process. But if you don't do anything, you have no hope of changing anything. So you got to keep at it. And you got to educate them too, because they don't realize. They don't know. They go to the bathroom wherever they want.
Yeah,
those
lawmakers don't know.
What do you mean you don't go to the bathroom?
Well, and to that point too, I always think about Congressman Boss' truck parking bill, which has been introduced how many times now? 4, 5 times, I think it's been, maybe. Don't fact check me on that, but it's been a few times.
Right.
But every time we see that bill come out, more and more co-sponsors come on because he's having that conversation with his colleagues and letting them understand that, truck drivers don't have a place to park. And if they don't have a place to park, guess where they're parking? They're parking in unsafe locations, yada, 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 and it goes on down the line. And the more they realize these things, and OOIDA makes that point, you do see progress. It's slow. It's not going to satisfy everybody, but it's happening, slowly.
Yeah. That's one thing somebody said earlier is if it wasn't for us trying to do something, nothing would get done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, even on the things that maybe we don't win on a particular issue, but we were able to mitigate the effects of that to where, if you want to use the word watered down. I mean, and conversely on things like, we pushed for entry-level driver training with a certain amount of hours behind the wheel. And then this 3-letter company that like everybody relates with trucking gets in and waters it down. Oh, we don't need to have all that behind the wheel training. A simulator is okay. And just having them ride along with another guy,
But we're seeing progress on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Exactly.
are. Yeah. But I'm just saying this is what we have had to push back against for all these years. And again, what is more realistic? Actual behind the wheel experience or a simulator? I'm not saying the simulator is not good, but you need a certain amount of really feel that wheel, feel how that truck starts when you start putting the brakes on and giving it the gas or whatever. A simulator can't do that.
It remains insane. It's insane to me that is not a requirement. Still, I still can't.
That's the power of economic forces, as Todd says a lot, right?
Yeah.
Economics drive everything.
Economic interests drive everything.
Right. And common sense right there would follow exactly what you just said. And it would say there's no way you can drive a truck without having enough training, and it has to be real world behind the wheel with a load, with no load, good instruction. And we don't have that. It's just a mystery.
Well, also you got all these companies they're designing all this driver so-called helps that take responsibility away from the driver, or at least they, this is supposed to be better, but a lot of times it's not.
AED, that kind of thing.
It opens it up to a lot of problems. So
here's the thing that strikes me in listening to you guys. And Monte, at the very beginning of our conversation, or near the beginning, you mentioned the camaraderie that used to be in the industry more, and we've lost some of that. And I think Matthew Bradley, actually, we spoke with him. Yeah. That was something that he talked about, and he's a younger driver.
Yep.
In hearing these things and hearing you guys talk, and Danny, maybe I share your fears for the future a little bit, because you talk about the camaraderie, but when you talk about all these things that younger drivers and people who are new to the industry are facing when they are entering the cab of a truck and they've never had any behind the wheel training, you're putting them behind an 8-ball before they even start their career. So in that respect, I guess I share some of your fear, because we're setting so many people up for failure, and that's why so many people enter the industry and then a year later they're gone.
That's the chew them up, spit them out mill that's going on, and that's what I tell these people trying to get in. I said, look, there's companies that will train you and put you on the road, and you've got to be really careful. You've got to be pretty durable, stand up for yourself, because they're trying to move loads. They're not trying to build you a career, except as a secondary thing. So absolutely, that's the enter the industry with your eyes open, because the industry is not looking out for you unless you're an OOIDA member.
Yeah. Give us something good.
What advice do you have?
Yeah. Give us something good.
Some wisdom. I feel like you guys got some wisdom here.
Well, let me just, you guys recently, we saw the crash out in
Florida?
No, I'm sorry. The one here.
It's sad that we don't know which crash you're talking about.
I know.
Because there's been so many lately.
Well, let me just say that the idea that the FMCSA would waive the English language proficiency back in 2015. I mean, I'm sorry, but an organization has safety in their name, and you think that, well, it's not that big a deal, apparently.
Yeah. And CBSA taking it out of service criteria.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But there was a driver that killed himself. This was in Colorado on Wolf Creek Pass. There was a sign there, the speed limit, and then there was a sign for a runaway ramp.
Couldn't read it.
He couldn't read it apparently, and killed himself. This poor guy. But that type of stuff right there, again, like I said, I go back to the fact of the value of the OOIDA membership, $45 a year, 13 cents a day. Honestly, I mean, and back when I started, it was $90. And the ad was for less than a cup of coffee a day, you can be a member of OOIDA. And I thought back then $90 was a heck of a value, because, and like back then I was pulling a van and, unloading a warehouse. The lumping thing was a big deal back then, That's kind of went away. I think a lot of companies, brokers, whatever, they'll have lumpers already lined up for the guy now. But I mean, that's the type of stuff that we've been about for the entire time, the existence, 50 plus years, that look at what's a cup of coffee? I mean, even at McDonald's, you go buy a cup of coffee. It's
$15.
A refill.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah. And I mean, people are probably paying, maybe going to Starbucks, getting a $3 or $4 coffee.
Oh, keep going higher.
And you can't afford to be a member of OOIDA.
But what do you get out of it? I guess that's a good question too. $45.
The information. Yeah. I mean, you could call in here and talk to people who are professionals. You can call in here. You can talk to so many people that they maybe don't drive, but they had a dad or a brother or their mother, a sister, somebody that's in trucking, grandpa, because a lot of the people that work here are that. They are those, they have a connection to trucking. You don't have that a lot of other places, I mean, that to me, just the amount of being able to call up, talk to somebody that's going to give you the long and the straight of it.
Yep.
This is what you got to do, or this is what you need to do, in this situation or whatever it is. Or if you find yourself, hey, call them up. Okay, yeah, do I need to maybe go to talk to an attorney? No, that's probably not something you got to have. But I mean, it's just having the ability, whether you take any of the other services we have, if you're an owner operator and you have our fuel card, and it's probably as good as any out there in the industry. But I mean, being a member of OOIDA being in trucking and not being a member of OOIDA, that's like just rolling dice.
Yeah. It's that support system that, used to be there and
Used to
is
be
still,
there, yeah.
is still here, but it's
Yes, yeah.
through the phone. We are getting short on time, but just final thoughts, Mark and Danny.
Yeah, back to your advice thing, I can make it quick. It is the mentorship thing is becoming pretty popular and a little bit maybe shallow, but you have to have good information. So you need to hook up with either a really good company that you know and trust, and or some really good drivers that you know and trust that you can run that stuff by, and certainly be an OOIDA member, call in and do those things. But you can't just reason your way through trucking because a lot of things do not make sense.
Yeah.
Also, a good starting point is agriculture. Agriculture uses much transportation, and they've got good insurance people or something because they get exempt from a lot of the regulations.
That's
the rest
true.
of them. Most places want you to be 25 years old and have 5 years experience. Well, nobody will hire you till you're 25. How are you supposed to get 5? Well, that's where agriculture, if you can get up and tied up with a hauling grain or fertilizer, or milk, whatever, you can get into some things that you can get experience to where if you want to go further. But some of those are really not bad jobs,
Good stepping stone.
Yeah, it's a good stepping stone without going through. Well, I guess you got to go to the school and pay the money now. The way
for a license.
I didn't really know that,
Yeah,
but I guess
yeah.
you do.
For a license, yeah.
Yeah.
But like what Mark is saying, you're able to dip your feet in the water.
Yeah.
See if trucking is something you think you might like. I mean, for me, being a gear jammer, being a gearhead, I love hearing that turbo whine and grabbing those gears and stuff. And I think about the way trucking's evolved to automated transmissions. And I mean, you can look at some of the numbers. Like I think 10 years ago, 80% of the trucks were manual, whereas today we're down to probably less than 20% of the trucks.
I was gonna say it's flipped, yeah.
Yes, and there's a skill set to that, and so they took that away, and I think that kind of goes to the. I'm not saying everybody's a bad driver, but to the quality of drivers. Companies kind of dumbed it down. Oh, hey, man, it's just like you just get in here just like driving a car. Yeah. And they looked at it like, hey, man, we won't have to pay as much, whatever. And I'm not saying every company, but I'm just saying by and large, a lot of the megas, we all know who we're talking about here, that they're, get a guy in there, burn him out, get a new guy in, just churn
him, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And one big issue that we haven't spoke about is the non-English speaking drivers. And that's a big issue. And that's one issue that I think OOIDA really did pretty good on.
And we've seen progress on that incredibly quickly.
Yes.
Over the past 4 or 5 months.
A lot of the older drivers or the experienced drivers have really appreciated that effort. And it is a problem. It's just a problem. So, and that's not trying to be against immigrants or anything like that, but we got to have safety.
Yes,
it's about safety. Safety first and foremost, for sure. Well, you three are a great advertisement for OOIDA. 816-229-5791. Call today if you'd like to join and become a member. And somebody will pick up the phone. Actually, an actual person will pick up the phone and talk to you and walk you through everything. Monty, Danny, Mark, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Quite welcome.
Thank you.
It's a good time.
Thanks for listening. Today's episode of Trucking with OOIDA was brought to you by a dedicated team of people. That includes Jim Fetzer, Tennille Flick, and Kim Boren.
You can listen to new episodes and extended interviews on your favorite podcast platform and on the OOIDA YouTube page. Please subscribe while you're there. If you've got thoughts, we'd love to hear them. Call us at 1-800-324-6856 and leave a message, or send us an email to podcast@ooida.com, and we might include it on the show.